The larger army filled open ground. Rome's smaller force held the entrance where it narrowed. At its head was Boudica. Her expanding revolt had already destroyed 3 major Roman settlements. Facing her, Suetonius Paulinus commanded only the troops Rome had managed to concentrate. The battle is famous. Its location is not. Watling Street is a later name. Families watched from wagons behind the warriors, creating a rear already filled with people. The enemy filled the plain. How could Rome's narrower line possibly survive? The answer begins before impact. Ground and narrow space keep numbers from reaching the fight. To understand that ground, we rewind to the opposite edge of the province. Suetonius was attacking Mona, far west of the lands where the uprising began. The governor stood west. The Iceni lived east. Roman settlements lay exposed between them. Suetonius turns back when news arrives, but distance has already given the revolt time. Before the revolt, the Iceni remained a client kingdom under Prasutagus. Prasutagus reportedly named the emperor and his daughters as heirs. He hoped to protect them. The settlement failed. Roman officials treated the kingdom as conquered territory and seized elite estates. Boudica is said to be flogged while her daughters are raped. The crisis becomes irreversible. Financial pressure may have deepened the crisis. Rome suddenly demanded repayment of earlier loans.
They seized the kingdom and named it law. Rome will see what that law made.
The coalition's first major target was Camulodunum, a veteran colony built without adequate defenses.
Camulodunum stands open. Hit it before Rome understands how alone it is.
The town embodied seized land and veteran power. Its imperial temple gave rebellion another target. For 2 days, resistance held inside the imperial temple. Then Camulodunum burned. Its destruction layer survives, but no reliable death toll does. A relief force from the 9th Legion advanced toward Camulodunum. Route and formation are lost. Nothing surviving describes an ambush. Only disaster is certain. The 9th Infantry was overwhelmed and destroyed before local recovery could begin. Cerealius escaped with cavalry, though the route and manner of withdrawal remain unknown. The failed relief ended any quick local recovery. The rebellion now controlled the initiative. Suetonius reached Londinium, a young commercial town rich in trade but lacking strong defenses. His available force was too small, and he judged the town impossible to hold. Holding this ground would consume the field force before the decisive battle.
Londinium cannot be saved. The army can. Turn the column and keep moving.
Only part of Londinium escaped with him. Others remained inside the abandoned town. By abandoning Londinium, Suetonius preserved the field force he could still command. The coalition entered an undefended Londinium. The town's commercial streets became fuel. Burned timber, clay walls and roof debris still mark Londinium's destruction underground. The fire is real. What happened to each person inside it is beyond recovery. The campaign then reached Verulamium, though its route and timing are not preserved. Verulamium followed, attacked, burned, and less completely preserved than the destruction ring of Londinium.
Beyond Londinium, Suetonius gathers what he can command. These units become one mobile field force. The field force contained the 14th Legion. A detachment of the 20th joined it. Auxiliary infantry and cavalry joined them, but their exact strengths are not preserved. The field force may have neared 10,000, but that figure remains impossible to verify.
The second is not coming. Close the gaps. What remains must be enough.
One expected reinforcement remains absent. The available troops prepare to move without it. The Second Legion receives its order at Isca. It never reaches Suetonius's field army. The camp prefect was Publius Posthumus. Why his legion stayed away remains unknown. Whatever the cause, the effect was immediate. Suetonius would fight without the Second Legion. This is the army he has, not the army he wanted. Every choice now narrows. Each victory brings more allies. It also brings more mouths, wagons, and marching miles. A larger host moves slowly and turns poorly. Supply becomes heavier with every mile. Different peoples join Boudica's coalition. They do not become one uniform army or command system.
Do not let victory slow us. Rome is weakest while it is still turning.
The coalition keeps growing, but every enormous total attached to it remains impossible to verify. Boudica gains width, but width alone cannot keep thousands moving or fighting as one. The second remains absent. Suetonius needs ground that makes his smaller force harder to surround. The chosen ground has a narrow approach. Woodland guards the Roman rear. Open ground lies ahead. Here, those features form an unnamed battlefield. Nothing more exact can be defended. Narrow ground protects the rear and shortens the front. It cannot guarantee victory.
14th in the center. Auxiliaries, lock the sides. Cavalry, keep both wings alive.
The battle will turn on space. No reliable count can decide it in advance.
Boudica's coalition crosses open ground. Ahead waits the position Suetonius has already chosen. Wagons and families stood behind the advancing mass, turning the rear into occupied ground. The Roman line lacks depth. The narrow approach restricts the coalition's breadth. This map shows mechanism, not location. A broad approach feeds into the narrow Roman front. The coalition could advance in breadth, but only part of that breadth could reach contact. The woodland sealed the Roman rear, while narrowing ground reduced danger along both flanks. Legionaries held the center, auxiliaries stood beside them, and cavalry guarded both outer wings.
Let their front grow crowded. We hold where their numbers become weight.
The coalition stays larger, but terrain keeps much of its strength away from Rome's flanks. That protection is conditional. The Roman line must still hold as the larger force approaches. The surviving speeches were written later. Boudica's and Suetonius's exact words died with the battlefield. The coalition kept moving, while every Roman formation remained fixed and waited. Each step forces a wider mass forward. Ahead waits a narrow wall of Roman shields.
Their line is narrow by necessity. Close fast, and make that narrowness choke them.
Whatever words she used, the decision is clear. Advance now, before Rome can strike. The legionaries held their ground, turning the narrow approach into a barrier before contact. The Romans wait. A closer target lets their missiles strike with greater accuracy. No distance survives. The sequence does. Wait. Let them close. Then release the pila together.
Not yet. Let the distance vanish. When they cannot recover, release together.
The first volley broke the leading pressure before the Roman line itself moved forward.
Then the legionaries ran forward in wedges, turning stillness into organized pressure. The auxiliaries move with them. Their added weight preserves the narrow front.
Now, drive through the front. Auxiliaries stay attached. Cavalry, tear open the edges.
At both wings, auxiliary cavalry lowered spears and broke through the resistance still holding. But wedges gives no blueprint, only an advance shaped to preserve cohesion under pressure. Roman stillness becomes forward pressure. The coalition's leading formations begin giving ground together. The coalition's front gave way, and organized retreat began collapsing into flight. Retreat leads back into the occupied rear. The stationary wagons narrow every available exit. The wagons blocked escape. Nothing shows that Suetonius had planned this trap in advance. The coalition compresses against its rear line. Roman infantry keeps advancing. Defeat becomes catastrophe. Backward movement meets a barrier already filled with wagons and spectators. The blocked retreat becomes slaughter. Roman pressure drives panic into an already sealed rear. Roman cavalry follows the collapse. Narrow exits keep retreat from becoming escape. The killing reaches women and animals. Around the wagons, the trapped crowd cannot move. Around the wagons, movement vanished into a killing ground no individual story can recover. When movement finally stopped, Roman units still held together. Boudica's coalition no longer did. The numbers are extreme. Nearly 80,000 Britons dead, against about 400 Romans.
The ratio sounds exact, yet neither army left a count we can trust. Those numbers create a perfect Roman story. Disciplined few, countless enemies, order defeating chaos. The battlefield remains unidentified. The scale of death cannot be tested against the ground. Rome won decisively. Many Britons died. Beyond that, the numbers disappear into storytelling. Boudica vanishes from the battle. Two incompatible endings remain, but neither gives certainty. Tacitus gives one ending. Boudica takes poison. Her final hours then disappear. Dio gives another. Illness kills her, followed by an elaborate and costly burial. No grave settles the dispute.
Boudica's last hours and resting place remain unknown. Fresh reinforcements arrive afterward. Suetonius gains more strength for the campaign that follows. Punitive operations continued, and famine struck surviving Britons as Rome tried to restore control. Rome eventually replaced Suetonius with Petronius Turpilianus, who followed a less aggressive policy. Rome survives, but Britain is not peaceful, and resistance is not finished.